The cell cycle is a constantly occurring cycle which links in with cell division. So there are different steps along the way to a cell dividing, and they each kind of have a different role, a different purpose along the way, so that our cells can constantly keep dividing and keep up with our organism's need for new cells. So the cells are actually dividing or splitting apart during the mitotic phase. So this is the phase where the cell will split into two, and we'll go through prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. We also have, right after the mitotic phase, a growth phase. And the cell grows throughout a lot of stages in this cycle. So we call it the G1 phase, the first growth phase. So this is just where the cell will establish itself after dividing and start to grow, get a little bit bigger. We also have some more growth in the next phase, but along with it, we have replication. So we call this the S phase, and this is where DNA replication takes place. So in order to create two new identical cells, we need to double the DNA before we can then split it in half again. We can split apart those sister chromatids. So DNA replication will happen during the S phase. And then finally, we will have another growth phase. And this is where preparation will take place, getting ready for the cell to divide. We call this the G2 phase. So how does the cell know how to or when to move through these different stages or steps in the cycle? So there's a few different factors, they can be internal or external, which control the movement through this cycle. So we have both internal and external factors. Which control the cell cycle. And along with that, obviously division, because the cell cycle is largely related to cell division. Now internally, there's two main things which are going to control this movement through the cell cycle and where the cell division can take place. So firstly, we have something called CDK, or cyclin dependent kinase, which is kind of a type of enzyme. And we have something called cyclin. Now what these two things are going to go together to create is mitosis promoting factor. Or MPF for short. So in order for mitosis to take place, the cell needs to create or synthesize a whole bunch of this MPF, or mitosis promoting factor, which is going to promote mitosis taking place. So in order for MPF to be created, we need cyclin to bind with or join together with cyclin dependent kinase. So very simply, if you imagine we had here cyclin dependent kinase, which is present in our cell, and then you imagine we had something which looked like this, and this was cyclin. These two are going to join together, and then that will become MPF. Now when MPF gets to high enough levels, this is what's going to stimulate mitosis to be able to happen. So how do we stop, or how does the cell stop there being too much mitosis promoting factor all the time and the cell dividing constantly? Well, we have a variable level of cyclin throughout the cell. So imagine that these M stages along here, these are checkpoints where mitosis is going to take place. As we get towards mitosis, cyclin will increase in the cell, and then it will drop off quite sharply before starting to increase again, dropping off sharply again, and this continues in this sort of pattern here, so that we get rises or spikes in cyclin. The amount of cyclin increases as we get closer to mitosis. This then allows both cyclin and CDK to be able to join, creating mitosis promoting factor, allowing mitosis to be able to occur. So at the same time, mitosis promoting factor will kind of move in a pattern like this, where mitosis promoting factor will be at its highest when we have peaks in the level of cyclin. Now, other things or other checkpoints or stages along the way where the cell will check that it's ready to go is things like at the end of the replication phase. So in order for the cell to progress to the next stage, the preparation for division stage, the cell needs to be able to check or have reached the checkpoint that successful division has taken, successful DNA replication has taken place. So along these stages, there are going to be checkpoints and different things like has growth completed to the stage required, has replication completed in the way that it needs to, in order for the cell to progress through the next stage and then eventually to cell division. Now, there are also some external factors which will influence cell division. So these could be things like nutrients. If a cell does not have the correct environment as far as nutrients and does not have its nutrient requirements down or present at that point in time, then it's going to find it difficult to divide. And also, space is going to be a big factor. If cells are constantly sensing that they are in contact with others, they're touching other cells very closely and they're in a packed in small environment or area, they're going to recognize that there's minimal space for them to be able to divide into and grow into. So this is going to see cells also hold off from dividing until there is more room present. So as you can see, the cell cycle links in closely with cell division. There are numerous checkpoints or steps along the way, including growth, replication, and then growth and preparation for mitosis itself. And there are numerous external and internal factors which are going to affect this cycle occurring.